Starting a dynasty is one of the biggest decisions you'll make for College Football 27 because not every rebuild is actually worth your time. Some programs give you the perfect challenge while others are going to test your patience for years, especially with all the changes that were made this year. I did all of the research and I've got the 12 best rebuilds for College 27 and I split them into 3 difficulty tiers. Whether you're looking for a fun challenge or a complete nightmare, you'll know exactly which program to pick. Let's start with tier 1, which I'm calling Program Reset. These will be painful, but a turnaround is doable in 2 to 3 seasons if you want something a little quicker. You've got resources, the team just needs the right person to run the operation. The first team in this tier is going to be Oregon State. Now, when picking these teams, I factored in a lot of different things. Where their roster was at, their budget, and even the cool factor like their uniforms and their traditions, because if you're going to be doing a dynasty, you want a lot of those little extras. You want the team to be fun. And Oregon State fits the bill here. They're not a good team. They've got a little bit of resources, so it's not going to be a completely brutal rebuild. They're in the newly formed Pac-12, which is also cool. They've got a lot of uniform options. They've got some cool traditions. And when you look at their dynasty blueprint overview, you can see you've got a few good players on the team, a few players in the 80 overall, but you can see that they're all seniors, so you're not going to have them past this year. Now, the job difficulty is very high, and your dynasty points are a D, because look, everything is going to be a challenge on this list. Nobody's going to be just super easy, but you do have some resources to work with. You've got over $2,000 in NIL budget. You've got $650 available, which means you can start recruiting some decent players right away. And your 80 expectations are doable, so you won't have to worry about getting fired right away. But as you can see, this team is trending down in the last 3 years. They are in desperate need of a rebuild. And if you're decent on the field, you can grab some instant dynasty points by simply beating Washington State and winning 75% of your conference games this season. And since you're in a conference that doesn't have a bunch of powerhouses, that can be doable. And your school grades aren't too bad, so that can help you a little bit when it comes to recruiting. The second team in this tier is Stanford, and they're going to be the easiest rebuild on the entire list because I wanted to at least put one team in there that even beginners could get in there and make it happen in a few years. Now, they have a really good NIL budget, by far the best on this list. No one else is going to have a budget even near this, but they're a team that has not been good lately. If you look at their AD expectations, look, they have not won more than 4 games in the last 3 years. But this is a team that does have a solid starting roster, a little bit better than some of the other schools, but as you can see, they're mostly juniors and seniors, so you're not really going to have them beyond the first season. But with a budget of over $4,600 and $3,000 of that being available right now, this is a medium job difficulty, and this is for more of my beginners that want to try this out for the first time. And when you look at your school grades, you're doing great with academic prestige, facilities, campus lifestyle, and conference prestige. So while the roster isn't great and the team has not been good for a while, this is the most doable rebuild on the list that should give you a little bit of a challenge but shouldn't make you go absolutely insane. And the last team in this tier is going to be Purdue. Now, again, a little bit easier than Oregon State, but not quite as easy as Stanford. This is a job difficulty that is very high, and you can see your roster not very good. Your highest overalls are 84. They're juniors and seniors at the top, so they're not going to even be there next year. You've got a pretty good NIL budget to work here with $3,400. Like I said, this tier does have resources. They just need the right person to manage the program. And when you look at your AD expectations, you can see this team has not been good for a while, but you can bring in some extra points here by winning a bowl game in your next 3 seasons, which is definitely doable. Scoring at least 30 points in any one game this season, so against maybe an FCS school or something like that you can schedule. And if you sign a top 75 class, which I don't think is going to be super hard to do with a school like Purdue because you do have a budget there. You've got some decent school grades, so people that care about academics, facilities, and conference prestige, you can bring those guys in. And Purdue also has some really cool traditions, some good uniforms, so they're going to be a fun team to play with. Hey, if you're still here at this point of the video and you're enjoying the content, I'm just going to ask that you go ahead and subscribe, join the family. That way you're always up to date with all of the latest tips and news for College Football 27. And you can always unsub at any time if you get tired of the videos. Moving on to tier 2, which I'm calling full rebuild. These are going to be brutal. Recruiting here is going to be a lot more difficult. The resources aren't nearly as good and the rosters have more holes. Expect to be rebuilding these schools for at least 4+ seasons. And we got to start with Hawaii here, which is always going to be one of your best rebuild options because of their location. They've got cool uniforms, they've got awesome traditions, and they're just one of the more unique schools in college football. But the job difficulty is going to be very high here. As you can see now, the dynasty budget is a lot lower than in tier 1. We have 1,400 dynasty points, 600 of which are available. The roster has a couple of decent players on it, but they're seniors, so you're not going to have them for very long. And when you look at your 80 expectations, the school demeanor is balanced, so you have a little bit of time to work with here, and some of these expectations aren't too hard. Make a bowl game in the next 4 seasons. If you're decent on the field, that's pretty easy to do. And when you look at the school grades, obviously they're going to be worse than some of the other situations we were dealing with, but you do have really good campus lifestyle and conference prestige, so those two things I would lean on heavily in recruiting. Staying in the same conference for the second school, we got to talk about North Dakota State. They are one of the new schools, and new schools are always fun to rebuild, but they have some really good uniforms, which is something I really consider when picking a dynasty team. But when you look at the rebuild, the difficulty is very high, and the school demeanor is impatient, so this one's going to be more difficult than Hawaii. Now, you've got a couple decent players here, but they are juniors, so you might not have them past one extra season. You've got an NIL budget of $1,400, which is a little bit to work with, but it's not a whole lot. And when you go to your AD expectations, like I just mentioned, the school demeanor is impatient, so you really need to try to get some things moving a little quicker here, which is what makes it difficult. Make a bowl game over the next 5 seasons, that's very doable in my opinion. Win more conference games than last year, that I'm not sure how that's going to work because they were not in the FBS last year. So if they mean win more conference games than they did in the FCS, that one could be difficult in the first year. And simply win a road game this season. You can get 25 extra points winning one road game. Schedule a FCS team, bring in some extra points. But the school grades are a little rough here. You've got nothing in the A's. You've got good coach stability and good conference prestige, so you can lean on that. You've got some decent academic prestige and campus lifestyle and brand exposure, so it's not the worst of the worst. And the last team in this tier is going to be App State, which is always one of the best rebuild options. They've got an awesome stadium, awesome atmosphere, great uniforms, great traditions, just a fun team to go into a dynasty with. But the job difficulty is very high, and the school demeanor is also impatient here. You've got a few good players, most of which are not going to be there much longer, but you do have a young sophomore that looks promising. Now, looking at the school demeanor, they do want you to be a conference competitor. Now, you're not in the most difficult conference. You've got a lot of low-rated teams in this conference, so I do think these games are winnable with App State. And if you could just simply beat Georgia Southern, if you do nothing else but do that, you can get some really good dynasty points this season. But the school grades are the worst we've seen so far. The only really good thing you've got going for you is campus lifestyle. You've got decent athletic facilities and conference prestige, so that's where you've got to lean on in recruiting, but it's going to be pretty tough. You're going to have to use some of that NIL budget probably more here on recruits than with the other schools. And really quickly, I do want to mention that we are still partnered with Civil.gg. If you play College Football 27 and you're tired of losing to random nonsense, losing dynasty games, or even just against your friends, this is the place to be. In the last 2 years, 96% of members say they've won more games simply just by joining. And inside, you'll get the exact schemes, full offensive and defensive guides that some of the best players run, and these are good for not only online but for dynasty players as well. Use code ERIC for 30% off. Link is in the description and the pinned comment below. This last tier I'm calling impossible job. This is insanity level and only recommended to people that are experienced rebuilders. Everything is stacked against you. You barely have any budget, you've got really bad rosters, and this is a true long-term project that only a sicko would take on. And we're starting with Eastern Michigan, which in my opinion is one of the most fun dynasty teams outside of the fact that they are not very good. They've got awesome uniforms, they've got the unique gray field, they've got a lot of updates to their team intros, their mascot, all of this extra stuff added this year, so they feel like a really fun team to go into dynasty with. Now, the job difficulty is high, and the school demeanor is patient, which is good because they kind of have to be. This is a team that is going to take many, many years. But the real thing that hurts you here is you only have a dynasty points budget of $765, and only 75 of it is available. The few good players you do have are all seniors, so they're going to be gone. This is a rebuild that you have to be truly committed to if you're going to take on. You're not going to rebuild this team in 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons. It's going to take more than that. Now, the one good thing going for you, like I alluded to earlier, are the AD expectations. They're going to be patient with you and give you time to turn this around. Being ranked in the top 25 in the next 3 seasons, that's probably going to be hard. I wouldn't count on that. Score at least 20 points in any game. I think that's doable. Again, schedule an FCS team. You can get some extra points there. Beat Central Michigan. That's where I would put all of my focus early on. Beat Central Michigan because you can get 200 points. Your school grades are pretty rough. You're going to pretty much have to lean on your coach stability. You've got some decent campus lifestyle and conference prestige, but other than that, it's going to be hard to convince people to come to this school. And of course, we have to talk about Delaware. They were a new team added last year, but they got a lot of upgrades this year that makes them better and more fun to go into Dynasty with. Great uniforms. They've got a new entrance and their mascot added. Just a really good looking team, a fun team to play with. The job difficulty here is very high, and the school demeanor is balanced, so again, you'll have some time to work, but not much of a great roster, but your best player is a sophomore, so that is something good you can lean on. Your dynasty budget is just under $1,000, so you've got a little bit more to work with here than at Eastern Michigan, but it's still going to be pretty tough. Now, when it comes to your AD expectations, they want you to upgrade to competitive facilities within the next 3 seasons. I think that can be doable, and that can get you some nice extra dynasty points. Beat Liberty again. This is something I would focus heavily on because you can bring in 200 dynasty points here, and that can be a big help. Win more conference games than last year can help you out a little bit as well. That might be tough to do in your first year, though. Your school grades aren't very good, as to be expected. You've got good academic prestige, but I don't know how much that's going to really help you in recruiting. You've got some decent coach stability, conference prestige, and campus lifestyle, but it's still going to be pretty tough in recruiting with this team. And then we got to talk about Missouri State. Now, great uniforms, just like Delaware. They were new last year, got a lot of upgrades this year. They got their mascot, some good team entrances, so they're a lot more fun to actually use this year. But the budget is under 500. You don't have much available. The job difficulty is high, but the demeanor is patient. You don't have many good players at all, and they're all going to be older, so they're not going to be there much longer. And honestly, the 80 expectations, while they're not the hardest in the world, they're just not going to give you much of a buff. The one thing you really got to focus on is just trying to make a bowl game in the next 3 seasons, which can be doable. That can give you some extra points, but the other 2 are not going to be the easiest to do depending on your skill level. And even if you accomplish them, they're not going to give you a whole lot. And your school grades, I mean, they really can't be worse than this. Almost everything is an F. The only 2 things that are even decent are your conference prestige and your campus lifestyle. Good luck recruiting with this team. Good luck building this team up. I think you're going to have to be somebody that is better on the field than in the menus for this one, which again, civil.gg, code Eric can help you out there if you need that little extra boost. But this is a rebuild that only a true sicko would take on. And if you want to see how some of this stuff works in action, I did a stream the other day where I played Dynasty for the first time, and you can check out that video right here on the screen.